number 2. The relationships of the disciples were too distant for the story to be faked. Successful conspiracies require excellent communication. Everyone participating in the conspiracy needs to tell the same story, and that's hard to do unless they can communicate regularly. That's why, as detectives, the first thing we do when interviewing multiple suspects is separate them.
Well, luckily, they did have something that connected them all and served as a guidebook on what they should and shouldn't teach. This guidebook would be the scriptures. According to Paul, he had visions of Jesus and he read the scriptures in order to get information about Jesus. He preached his gospel message for 14 years before he met up with any of the other apostles. And when he compared his gospel message to their gospel message, they, quote, added nothing to him. So Paul, being completely separated from all the other apostles and never having historically known Jesus, was able to accurately preach the gospel message only using the scriptures and his visions. Even if Paul was lying, there's a sufficient enough foundation in the scriptures in order for everybody to keep their story straight. Paul even uses this scriptural guidebook in order to call out fake apostles, like in 2 Corinthians 11:13. So Jesus' resurrection, being solely based on the scriptures, explains everything that J-Dubs thinks can't be explained.
Successful conspiracies also benefit from strong familial relationships. Conspirators are far less likely to rat out fellow family members. The disciples didn't have the benefit of excellent communication or overarching family relationships.
Well, lucky for those Christians, because as soon as you become baptized into Christianity, you become part of God's family. Paul is a good example of this because in Galatians 1:11, he addresses a crowd of Christians as brothers and sisters, indicating that they were all baptized Christians. Even so, that doesn't prevent Paul from calling out these fake apostles and fake Christians that are preaching a message contrary to the scriptures and his visions. And the same could be said about all the other apostles. So, whether this was a lie or not, the scriptures would have been the controlling factor of the story. The scriptures were something that all apostles had access to, so this was the binding factor between them all. And still, even if all of this was a lie, a conspiracy of lies is way more plausible than Jesus' resurrection. People lie, and they get other people to lie for them. That is a real thing that happens, and resurrection is not something that has ever been known to happen.
The 12 apostles, for example, were separated by thousands of miles without the ability to communicate with each other. They couldn't coordinate lies, quote unquote, or disprove a false claim that one of them might have recanted in a faraway land. While a few of the apostles were related, most were not. And Matthew, the writer of one of the earliest Gospels, wasn't even liked by the other disciples when he first joined the group. If the story of Jesus was faked, it would have been easily exposed given the geographic and relational distance of the disciples.
Well, first of all, Matthew Levi did not write the Gospel of Matthew. J-Dubs regularly relies on conservative Christian scholarship in order to hold on to this position. It makes no sense given the evidence that we have about the Gospel. The Gospel of Matthew was written in the 80s and gets most of its information from the Gospel of Mark. So there's no way that the Gospel of Matthew could be considered an independent account of Jesus. But still, Paul definitely demonstrates that he can denounce these fake apostles just by using his visions and scriptures. So I don't know why J-Dubs thinks that they can't do that. Also, why does he think that if all of this was a lie, it would be easily exposed? Like I've already laid out, this supposed lie was perfectly in line with what the scriptures were saying about the Messiah. That makes it a very believable, but more importantly, reproducible lie. The geographic and relational distance between the apostles didn't matter.